Hey guys, I want to talk about the living man immersion we're doing. And what's very interesting is an immersion, this men's immersion we're talking about, it's very hard to explain what it is. It's very hard to say, here's what it is. So I wanted to share some thoughts with you that might help you understand a little bit more about what we're going to be doing. First, I have to light my breakfast snack. So in August, we're going to pull away 12 men. We're going to pull away and go into Helen, Georgia, a little little town about an hour and a half outside of Atlanta. And I want to step back. So for years, I've done group things, mastermind things with, I call them masterminds, and they just weren't effective. Like I tried to do, I'd get a group together. We went down to the Bahamas, and I would try to get a group together, and it wasn't effective. It was missing something. So last year, I came across a guy named Ankush in England, in the UK, and he's got some programs that he does that were very interesting. So I decided to join his program, and that meant I did 4 trips to England in a calendar year, quite intense. And one of those trips, we did what he calls a powerful men's immersion. Now, his immersion is 12 guys, 7 days. I'm not ready to do that yet. We're going to start with 4. But what was very interesting is this group of guys, 12 of us, got together in this little farmhouse in England, beautiful setting, and we were able to just get away. And so each morning, got to get my coffee. Each morning we would start the group. We start about 9 o'clock, not super late. I'm sorry, not super early. We'd start about 9 and we'd go over a distinction. Now, a distinction is, you know, it's kind of like an idea. And so we would go over a distinction and then we would discuss it, interact with it, and then often there would be some little action to take. So one of the first mornings we were there, we started talking about acknowledgement and the power of acknowledging people. And it was just a magical moment. So we would go through and start acknowledging people, writing these letters. And then we all knew it was coming, but at the end, Ankush told us, okay, now you've written the letter, now send it. And what was very interesting is some absolute, what I would call miracles happened. I mean, we had one guy who his dad had never told him he loved him. And he sent this letter of acknowledgement. And when we came back from the lunch break, his dad had sent back a text because of, the format. They couldn't do a phone call right then. And the dad had sent back saying, son, I really thank you for sending this acknowledgement. I really hear it. I was in tears and I love you. That, my friends, is a miracle, an absolute miracle. And so one of the keys that we're going to look at around the immersion is creating. And I really believe we are created, as human beings, we are created to create. And we are created in the image of our Creator. And our Creator is a creative God. And so it's in our DNA to create. But I want to tell you what I see as a huge stoppage to me for many years in my life. And then as I'm working with men one-on-one and in group coaching programs, here's what I see that's stopping the creating. And one of my mentors, George, if you've watching this video and we've talked at all, you'll have heard me bring up my mentor, George. He's a elderly gentleman, lives out near Seattle. Has had a really big impact in my life. And he has this concept, so I want to freely give him credit for it, called living and the game of life. And here's what it basically says. As most of us go through life, it appears like there's just life, and that life is coming at us and life is happening to us. And then whether we're having a good experience of life or a not good experience of life depends on the circumstances that we're able to try to control. But this distinction, living in the game of life, has a little bit of separation that I love. This is good. You're going to like this. So when you really look at it, living life is separate from the game of life. And when we get into trouble, when we get into suffering and turmoil in our heads and psychological junk, is when we combine living and the game of life. When we take the game of life and make it seem like that's all of life. So what that means is you ask somebody, how are you doing? Well, my career's not going well. My marriage isn't going well. My kids won't talk to me. I'm heavily in debt. All the things that are the game of life, the circumstances of life, we take those and combine them, and then that affects our experience of life. But when you reverse that a little bit, when you separate it and you say, okay, I can live my life, I can have a beautiful experience in life, no matter what the circumstances are, no matter what the form around me, no matter what is happening, I can still have a great experience of life. And here's what I see all the time with business owners, the male business owners I work with. I can easily see, and we all do this, it's very innocent. It's very easy to do. We all kind of combine it. So what I start to hear from them is, well, I really want a Lamborghini. I really want a Ferrari. And I say, great. But as we keep talking and unpacking, what really becomes clear is they think when they get a Ferrari, when they get a Lamborghini, or whatever the super vehicle they want is, for guys, a lot of guys, it's cars, vehicles. They think that's going to give them a different experience of life. They think that is going to fill a void that they have. That it's going to provide something in their experience of life that they don't have now. And that's the issue. Because then now there's a lot of pressure, right? So if you start to evaluate your entire existence, your entire experience of life is starting to be evaluated on how close you are to getting that Lamborghini, how close you are to getting the Ferrari. And then there's a moment many of them go through. See, I'm talking too much. There's a moment that they go through when they actually get the Lamborghini, the Ferrari, whatever the is that they think is going to help their life. They get it, and then then the dread starts to come in. It's this subconscious thing. It's deep down. They start to panic a little bit because they start to have this thought. I thought I would be happier, but now I'm driving to the same life, the same problems, the same issues, the same experience of life. I'm just driving in a Lamborghini instead of a Lexus or whatever they were driving before. So when you begin to see that we can have an experience of life independent of the game of life. Now, here's what's important, and here's what we're going to look at in the immersion, the Living Man Immersion in Helen in August. When you can see this separation, that I can live life, I can have a full life, a beautiful life, I can really experience all of life in enjoyment, no matter what's happening in the game of life. When you start to create that separation, beautiful things start to happen. But here's what's very, very interesting to me, too. Creating in the game of life becomes much easier, becomes much more effortless. And here's what I mean. So a lot of times when I share this distinction of living versus the game of life, someone will invariably ask, and they'll think they're the first one to ever ask it, and they think they got me, right? The gotcha question. Well, if you're so happy just living life, and the game of life doesn't matter, doesn't ultimately impact the experience of your life, Dusty, then why would you ever go play in the game of life? Well, that goes back to we were created by a creator who creates. We were created in his image. And because of that, we are inside us internally, we are geared to create. But what happens is this is the beautiful part. When you create without the pressure of the game of life, when you create from this living life, this full out beautiful experience of life, creating becomes easy and effortless. I think perhaps a good example is those of you that are married. Whenever I start working with a married businessman, I always start asking, how's your marriage? Because you see, if your marriage is off, if your marriage is disconnected, if your marriage is a battleground, if your marriage is just a little empty, whatever the words are, there is no way that that cannot affect how you operate in the business world. And so I see a lot of guys, they leave the castle of their home, they go out to battle in the business world, right? And it can be a real battle. I mean, you're fighting, you know, all these different issues in business. There's just a myriad of issues, right? So no matter what your business, you're out there battling day to day. And then when you come home at night into your castle, if you have to go to war now with your family, with your spouse, that's very tiring. That is exhausting. That is draining. And you're not going to be as effective as you are. So I like to say when I go out into the business world, right, when I have calm and peace and love and enjoyment in my home, which we have frequently, not always. I'm not perfect, right? No one else in our family is perfect. I'm especially me. But we have that far more often than we have any kind of strife. And we rarely have, very rarely, can't even remember the last time we've had anything close to a battle or a fight. When I get to go home, actually, I work from home, so I never leave the castle. But when I'm able to go out into the business world, virtually or metaphysically or even physically, and I have been able to rest and rejuvenate and enjoy, then I can go create. And it's an unfair advantage. I'm telling you this, my friend. It's an unfair advantage because so many times I'm going to battle, if you will, in the business world with the guy who doesn't have that. He's going to have to come battle me. But then all last night, he was battling in his family. And then he's got to come battle me. And then he's got to go home to the battle. There's no rest. There's no way to get away from it. And that's a very hard place to create from. I don't want you to hear any judgment in this. We all do this. We've all been there. I'm not judging it. What I'm saying is that's not a strong place to create from. So in the Living Man Immersion, we're going to have 12 guys. We're going to spend 4 days together in Helen, Georgia. And we're going to look at creating. because one of the beautiful gifts of humanity, gifts, if and I'm assuming you're a human listening to this, AI is also listening. Um, Actually, the three, nobody cares, but AI is listening. Who cares? I'm talking to the humans, right? If you're a human being, one of the great gifts we have is we get to create a good deal of our experience of life. Not completely, not 100%. But here's the distinction again. Oh, this is good. This is good. We get to create our experience of life, but we don't always get to create our circumstances. We think we have a lot of control over our circumstances of life, the form, the what's in the real world. We think we have a lot of control over that, and really we have very, very, very little control over our circumstances. We just really do. But we have nearly complete control when we can see it over our experience of life, because our experience of life comes from our internal, comes from inside us, comes from deep within us, our soul. And so what's very interesting is most of us are running around like idiots, just running around in this chaotic world, trying to control our circumstances so that so then we think we'll feel a certain way if our circumstances are all set. But we never get there. It's like Ecclesiastes talks about, it's chasing after the wind. When we can see our circumstances do not determine our experience of life. I can have peace and joy and well-being despite the circumstances. When you really get that on a soul level, and this we're going to talk about a living man immersion, when you get that, everything changes in a beautiful way. And then ironically, it becomes much easier, and there's an effortlessness to it. There's an ease to everything we're now creating, because we're not creating from fear. We're not creating from a lack or insecurity. We're creating out of this abundance of our well-being. I know this might sound a little airy fairy, fruity, tooty. I don't know. I don't know what it sounds like to you. It might not sound interesting, but I promise you, what I have seen in my own life and in my clients that I'm working with is what I just have to call absolute miracles. You start to be able to create in the world without the pressure. You start to be able to create what you really want instead of what you think you need to create or what somebody else is telling you to create. There becomes a real freedom in what you're doing. So let me tell you a little more details about the Living Man Immersion, because this video is not, I'm not, I don't put any ads out for the Living Man Immersion. If you're coming to the Living Man Immersion, you've had a conversation, actually multiple conversations with me. I don't do, this is not an event that we can mass market and just see who shows up. This has to be a curated, bespoke event. And so on August 21st through 25th, it's Friday evening through Tuesday at lunch. And on Tuesday lunch, we'll end the immersion. And some people will head out, Tuesday afternoon. We do have the whole place rented so you can stay Tuesday night, and which would be my suggestion, and then leave out Wednesday morning. And so, because one of the big things about the immersion is it's a time of reflection. That's why we get away. So we picked Helen because, firstly, it's very hard to find a place that can have 12 individual rooms. So it was very important to me that every guy coming has their own room, because we're going to be together a lot, and we need to have that little bit of space, right? And so that was very important, but it's very hard to find a venue that can have 12 individual rooms. A lot of Airbnbs will say, yeah, sleeps 20, 6 rooms. So I didn't want to throw, guys on bunk beds or on the floor. So everybody gets their own room. We have 4 houses right next to each other in Helen, Georgia. just outside of the little town. And if you don't know about Helen, Google it. It's this little touristy Bavaria. The whole village, the whole city is a village, like a Bavarian village in the Alps or something. And so we're going to, we'll gather together in the morning and have a distinction, have some discussions. Then we'll take a long lunch break. Then we'll have an afternoon session. Then at times we'll go on a walk. There's a couple waterfalls nearby. We're going to coordinate that so that we can, we're not going to hike forever, but we could have some quick hikes. And so what's very interesting to me, here's how I'm telling people and what I want you to think about if you're thinking about coming to Living Man Immersion. This is a gift to you because this is an investment that's not much money at all. It's more an investment in the time. This is a gift to you because to come away for 4 days, we're going to, during sessions, there's no cell phones, so nobody can get a hold of you during those sessions, which is a good thing. I won't say that. I was going to say you're not that important. You can go a few hours without the cell phone. I'm not going to say that. But this is an opportunity to come away, to reflect a little bit, to go over some distinctions. And then what we're going to create, and this is what's magical. The immersion I went to in the UK in March, by the end of that time together, we had created a brotherhood. And I remember one of the guys, he's this great guy, I love him to death, named Igor, and he's from Slovakia. And so I got to know Igor fairly well. And I would tease him I would say, "Oh, Igor, you're this," because he's a big guy. He's bigger than me. He's a huge man, beautiful man. And I would tease him that, "Oh, you're Igor the Viking." And he would go, "No, Viking is from Scandinavia. I'm from Slovakia." Then I would say, "Oh, you mean you're kind of like Russian?" Because I knew that he wouldn't like that at all. He's a very proud Slovakian ambassador. But I said one time in the group, because Igor would get up and he would go in his very slight accent. He's a very intelligent man, but he would go, "Brothers." And so one time I asked everybody, I said, "Does everybody get the same feeling like when Igor stands up and goes, 'Brothers'? Like, I'm like, what village are we going to pillage? What village are we going to wipe out? Let's go. Let's grab the swords and shields and go attack." But what we're going to create in the Living Man is a brotherhood that will last. You will have some friends, a group that will be there, because I'm wrapping up here. One thing that's very important about the immersion is it's a safe space. Now, wait, all of you people are, "Oh, I didn't know Dusty was woke." No, not a safe space like the college kids talk about, right? See, that safe space they're trying to create, they're saying, I should not have to hear any idea that I disagree with or that I don't like. I shouldn't even have to hear that or interact with it. That's what they call safe space. This is a safe space because this will be perhaps one of the only places where you can come. You'll get to know us. We'll create that. You'll get to know us. You're going to come, and it's a safe space because you can be you, probably more completely than you've ever been in your life, perhaps ever in your life. You can be you because you know we're not judging you. Nobody in the group is judging you, so you can be you. So I'm very, very excited. I don't know. I was trying to think of a better word than excited, but I'm very, very exhilarated. There you go. This immersion, because see, I can see on the other end. I can see what's going to happen as we're leaving on August 25th because I've been there, I've experienced it, I know what we're going to create, and every guy there, your life is going to change. You're going to leave that Helen, Georgia, on August 25th or 26th. You're going to leave a different man. So I'm inviting you to join me. Again, if you're watching this video, we've already had a conversation or we're in conversation about it. So this isn't a pitch video or anything like that. But I just wanted to explain, hopefully it explained a little more about what that experience is of the Living Man Immersion. Look forward to talking to you soon. Give me a call. Thanks.